Well, Henshaw here again, and I have an issue that's not very well known and very little understood, but one of the most important issues we have to deal with trying to get around these statutes and getting our independence and liberty back. It's extremely important. Hey, a basically seemingly inescapable constitutional truth is that courts exercising the judicial power of a state and or the United States are required to exist. This, by the way, pursuant to Article 1, Section 9 and or 10 of the Constitution of the United States, and very arguably the Ninth Amendment as well. And they should be readily available, at least to beneficiaries of the trust known as the United States, and lawful de jure jus sanguinis state citizens, yet these courts do not appear to exist. Finding these judicial courts, to which our status and standing in concert with our Creator endowed inalienable rights secured by the Constitution are recognized, along with remedies to vindicate these rights while confining public servants to the defined and limited powers of the Constitution that we the people ordained and established to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, is absolutely essential if we are going to restore this government and regain our liberty and independence. And this is where my decades of intense, passionate, and independent study of the Constitution, history, and laws of the United States come into play, conspicuously including my recent epiphany on our right to assistance of counsel. You're going to love this one. You can send email to me at youwinnincourt@gmail.com. Information on my constitutional defense document packets. This issue alone is going to beat them across the board. Has led me to several possible solutions to finding and invoking the judicial power of the United States and getting the bastards off our backs already. To these ends, I'm asking your help, most particularly with the federal district courts, since I do not have any of the required ID to gain entry into any federal building, let alone federal court. This is a very interesting constitutional issue with district courts, which did begin life as an Article 3 judicial courts, but have apparently been shorn of all such jurisdiction and relegated to federal insular territorial tribunals. A lot of information on this subject and more besides comes from acquisition of my constitutional defense document packet. Send me an email at youwinnincourt@gmail.com. That said, when I could still enter federal buildings before 9/11, I discovered that a district court has a miscellaneous docket. But I did not then have the knowledge I have today, and I did not explore this potentially positive avenue of relief. Sometime later, I read the decisions of the 9/04, aka the U.S. Supreme Court, in Ex parte Prodog and Snow versus the United States, in which it was ruled that territorial tribunals have dual jurisdictions. One is a federal insular territorial tribunal, the other as an Article 3 federal circuit court. This at a time when these circuit courts were Article 3 judicial courts. With further research and analysis to follow, these decisions seem to resolve what appears to be a sticky constitutional question pursuant to the doctrine of separation of powers. One which would not exist in a state admitted into this union at all. Indeed, separation of powers were, in my view, very important issues which led to the war between the states. We come to the next avenue of relief, filing our documents with a state judge, quote unquote, in chambers, in other words, in his office, and not using the clerk of court at all. There are two advantages here. First, that clerks are simply not trained in the scope of the court's jurisdiction and thus their powers, and second, that filing with the judge, quote unquote, gets our issues officially in the court record, which must be heard and decided in order to create an Article 3 case or controversy, ostensibly in the appellate jurisdiction of the 9/04 U.S. Supreme Court, to hear and decide, as they are required to do pursuant to their sanctimoniously self-proclaimed duty to say what the law is. Marbury versus Madison. It isn't clear if such cases are only heard quote unquote in chambers, but you should not be surprised since a principal goal of the just us system is to keep members of the public at large as ignorant of the truth as possible. Just as it seems to be the case in a territorial tribunal filing documents with a judicial officer, at least in the capacity when not dealing with birthright citizens, does in fact invoke the judicial power of the United States with ongoing research in this area. But it must be true because if we created this government and we're the principals and they're the agents, these courts have to exist. And when we show up, I think that's what creates their existence. They recognize our status and standing, bang, there's your judicial court. Another issue is perhaps the most surprising one of all, filing documents including summary default judgments with the county clerk. In California and other jurisdictions, an elected independent member of the Judicial Department of Government, who is an ex officio clerk of the district court, which is a constitutional common law court, who is not required to be and should not be a member of any state bar association, and who acts as a liaison for the Judicial Department of Government for the people to whom it's supposed to serve. There's a lot to chew on here. I will get back to you with an update because, as I said, research ongoing. But at least one of these avenues has to work. And once we do that and we get into a constitutional court, the ball game is over. They can't beat us. They can't even come into our court unless we let them. And trust me, I'm not going to let them, and you shouldn't either. This is how good this is and how the original Constitution was designed. How we've gotten away from that is a story for a very long video on another day. But trust me, I have a lot of answers there. But this stuff does work. It was planned to work. It should still work today. Thank you for listening to my video. Remember to like the video, subscribe, and tell your friends. And contact me at uwinningcourt@gmail.com. Thank you.